Good morning, I'm Joe Hafner, your armchair news reporter and presenter for you on this edition of the Show Me Almanac on Tuesday, September 27th, 2016. We started the morning off with mostly clear skies, overnight lows in the mid-40s, and expecting sunny skies throughout the day, temperatures warming up into the upper 60s to lower 70s. And for the most part, it doesn't look like we'll see any significant rain or thunderstorms in the weather picture for at least the next 5 to 6 days. Complete details on the weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes. In the meantime, taking a brief look at the community calendar for today. And a couple of items of interest to tell you about. First of all, going on in Edina from 10 this morning to 12:30 this afternoon, there's a drive-through flu clinic. Once again, that's in Edina from 10 this morning till 12:30 this afternoon. It is located on Clay Street, north of the Knox County Community Center. To participate, must line up on 4th Street by Doss Funeral Home. The line will extend back towards Cinar Market. There will be traffic control and those available to guide you. The program is sponsored by the Knox County Health Department. They will bill private insurance, Medicaid, and Medicare. Private insurance prices are $25 for those receiving a vaccine between the ages of 19 and 64 years of age. The high-dose flu vaccine for those 65 years and older is $45. Also going on today, the Moberly Area Chamber of Commerce Awards Banquet and Program and Sesquicentennial Finale takes place today at the MACC Activity Center. All starts with social hour at 5, dinner at 6. Nashville singer Carissa Beal performs at 6:45. Program starting around 7:15. Then a concert by Big Bad Voodoo Daddy at 8. Ticket prices for the dinner and program are $25. Tickets for the show and the seats facing the stage are $10, and side seats are sesquicentennial priced at $1.50. Call or stop by the Moberly Area Chamber of Commerce office for more details or to get your tickets. And a reminder, the Faith Lutheran School is hosting their annual Fall Festival a week from this Friday. Starts at 5:30 at the Nemo Fairgrounds. Admission is $6, includes a meal and 5 carnival game tickets. Activities include assorted carnival games, a petting zoo, bingo for all ages, along with a dessert table, plus live and silent auctions, and a whole lot more. And that's the annual Fall Festival sponsored by the Faith Lutheran School in Kirksville, a week from this Friday, October 7th at 5:30 at the Nemo Fairgrounds, also on the east end of Kirksville off of Highway 11. Sunny skies in the weather picture for today, and temperatures once again warming up into the lower 70s. We'll have a complete look at your weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes, as well as across our wide Missouri, news from the Missouri Net, and a whole lot more on this edition of the Show Me Almanac, I should say. Right now, they're going to pause for a little bit and get the latest from the CBS World News Desk and find out what's going on in the world on this Tuesday, the 27th day of September 2016.
What's in the news? The focus group.
She's self-absorbed as he is, but she's got so much facts in command, that covers it up.
I'm Steve Kaith in CBS News. 27 voters who classify themselves as undecided watched the presidential debate with GOP pollster Frank Luntz.
Trump impacted my vote in favor of Hillary because he was completely offensive. He lost me on the racial unity.
What emerged was a frustration with Donald Trump.
I tell him to answer the question that is asked of him and then stop talking.
They wanted to see someone who they felt they could trust. They got some of that with Clinton. They did not get what they were looking for with Trump.
Luntz says the group thought Trump got off to a strong start.
Of the first 30 minutes was very different than the Donald Trump of the last 30, and that's all about preparation. It bothered them that he kept interrupting Lester Holt, that ignored him. It bothered them that he kept taking shots at Hillary Clinton. The difference is she took shots at him. They were well prepared, well orchestrated.
And those shots didn't hurt her in the eyes of the undecideds.
By the last 30 minutes, with Birther, also with his tax returns, they were mad at him.
Recently, he's been very good with his speeches and his appearances where he has stayed on message, no personal attacks, just sold himself and his plan instead of attacking.
And tonight
he went back to attack.
Of the 27, Luntz says 16 moved closer to Clinton, 6 to Trump, 5 unmoved. Now this. What's in the news? I'm Steve Kaith, CBS News.
Donald Trump's business acumen and Hillary Clinton's trade position, two parts of last night's debate that may have needed some simultaneous translation. From Marketplace in New York, I'm David Brancaccio. Some Marketplace angles on the presidential debate. My colleague will get to Hillary Clinton's nuance on trade in a moment. But first, Donald Trump's nuance on his own business skills. These are among moments with both candidates last night that many in the audience might have been left with a sense of, what are they trying to say? For instance, the twin subjects were Clinton's missing emails, then Trump's tax returns, which he's not made public. Trump said he's made other financial disclosures and then turned the subject.
The other thing, I'm extremely underleveraged.
Trump then talked about real estate buildings worth $3.9 billion. The number 650 came up. He then said to back up this point that he could give the public some financial references, banks to check in with.
If that would help you, I would give you a list of banks. These are very fine institutions, very fine banks. I could do that very quickly. I am very underleveraged. I have a great company. I have a tremendous income. And the reason I say that is not in a braggadocious way. It's because it's about time that this country had somebody running it that has an idea about money.
All right. Now, here's what this section may have meant in the meta sense. Ian Bremmer is president and founder of the New York-based Eurasia Group, a political risk research and consulting firm.
He's a successful businessman. He wants to show everyone he's strong and successful. He's worth a lot of money. He does not want, under any circumstances, to give his tax returns up. And I think that was Hillary's response. Well, why would that be? Is it because he's not actually worth that much? Or is it because he doesn't actually pay anything? I think a lot of Americans have that concern. A lot of Americans have the email concern about Hillary, which is why he tried to turn that around. But in that exchange, Hillary got the best of it.
Now, if that was among sections of the debate that needed some translation, here's another one, but from Hillary Clinton. Where she stands on trade deals, Trump has made it clear that he abhors the North American Free Trade Agreement.
I was against it once it was finally negotiated and the terms were laid out. I wrote about that in...
You called it the gold standard. You called it the gold standard of trade deals.
TPP is what they're referencing there. Marketplace's Kimberly Adams. This one is yours.
Right, David. Both of them actually had some truth in their statements about the TPP. Clinton did indeed call it the gold standard of trade deals in her book, but that was before the details of that deal were negotiated. Now, since then, Clinton has said she's opposed to it and that she won't change that position once elected. Last night, Clinton also defended her record on other trade deals.
When I was in the Senate, I had a number of trade deals that came before me, and I held them all to the same test. Will they create jobs in America? Will they raise incomes in America? And are they good for our national security? Some of them I voted for. The biggest one, a multinational one known as CAFTA, I voted against.
That's the Central American Free Trade Agreement. CAFTA was one of two trade deals Clinton voted against during her time as senator from New York. She voted in favor of several others, but at the time, back in 2005, she said CAFTA didn't include adequate labor standards.
Marketplace's Kimberly Adams in Washington. Thank you. Markets, the Mexican peso rose against the dollar overnight. A bet traders say that Hillary Clinton's performance was strong last night. There's a big study just out today about gender in the workplace by Lean In, the organization started by Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg and the consulting firm McKinsey. They surveyed 34,000 people at 132 companies in North America. Alexis Krivkovich is a partner at the consulting firm McKinsey and a lead researcher on the study. Alexis, good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
So since last year, what should we say? Some progress with a question mark over the some?
I'd say there's definitely a question mark. We're seeing that corporate America is still quite far behind when it comes to gender parity in this country, and in particular that women are falling behind early. It's those first promotions that are really holding them back, and they continue to lose ground at every step.
I'm going to ask you about those first promotions in just a second, but the phenomenon you're talking about is particularly pronounced when you're talking about people of color trying to get promotions?
It's absolutely especially acute for women of color. We see that early on, women of color are represented relative to their position in the U.S. population, but by the C-suite, they're virtually not present. We only see 3% of them at the senior executive level.
Let's talk about these early steps up to manager when you're going through an organization, the early promotions. Tell me about what you found then in terms of gender.
Well, this was really surprising to us because we would expect that first promotion is a point where women and men are perhaps facing the most equal experiences both in the workplace and in the home environment. It's also where we tend to see most of our youngest generation and millennials, and a lot of people expect to see a lot of change there. And unfortunately, what we found in the research is really the reverse, which is that for every 100 women that are promoted at that first entry level to manager, 130 men are. So women are falling behind quite acutely at that very first step-up moment.
Getting ahead at work also involves getting feedback and negotiating promotions, but your research finds, again, a difference between men and women when it comes to these conversations?
Absolutely. And the encouraging piece is that men and women both state that they're asking for and they're interested in feedback at the same rates. But women are stating that they don't receive it nearly as often. They're, in fact, 30% less likely to get monthly input. And when it comes to difficult and critical feedback, while managers think that they're giving it to the same degree to men and women are saying they're not receiving it at the same rates. And that's a real problem when you think about the input you need to really elevate performance over time.
Alexis Krivkovich is a partner at the consulting firm McKinsey and a lead researcher on the study. Ms. Krivkovich, thank you for this.
Thank you.
We'll put up a link to that data at marketplace.org. This is the Marketplace Morning Report. I'm David Brancaccio, and it's from APM, American Public Media.
This Marketplace podcast is supported by Wix.com. A great business needs a stunning website. And with Wix.com, you can do it all by yourself. Wix makes it easy to look amazing online no matter what type of business you're in. Show off your images with a beautiful gallery, grow your contact list, and put all your social media in one place. Your customers are going to love it. So what are you waiting for? Show the world what you can do. Go to Wix.com and create your own stunning website today. It's easy and free. That's Wix, Wix.com.
Trump and Clinton square off.
You have no plan. A book about it. You can pick it up tomorrow.
Debate hardens campaign battle lines.
Two completely different visions for the future of the country.
Tearful tributes to a fallen star. Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. The buildup was akin to a prize fight, and the first presidential debate brought Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump together on the same stage to slug it out 6 weeks before voters decide who will occupy the Oval Office. Our team coverage begins with CBS's Stephen Portnoy at New York's Hofstra University.
It seemed to start politely.
Donald, it's good to be with you.
Secretary Clinton, yes. Is that okay? Good. I want you to be very happy.
But with that, pleasantries went out the window. Hillary Clinton threw the first punches, hitting Trump's tax plan.
I call it trumped up, trickle down.
And she said Trump is hiding something in his taxes.
Maybe he's not as rich as he says he is.
Trump accused Clinton of not doing enough to stop jobs from leaving the country.
Well, you haven't done it in 30 years or 26 years.
Well, I've been a senator,
You
Donald,
haven't done it.
It was Clinton's husband who signed NAFTA, which Trump called one of the worst things that ever happened to American manufacturing.
You go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, you go anywhere you want, Secretary Clinton, and you will see devastation.
Clinton said Trump rooted for the housing crisis and stiffed contractors.
You wouldn't pay what the man needed to be paid, what he was charging you.
Maybe he didn't do a good job, and I was unsatisfied with his work.
Midway through, the debate seemed to turn with a focus on race.
This is Pam Coulter. It was one of the most heated exchanges of the debate. Donald Trump said he had developed a very good relationship with the African American community, but was unrepentant for his years of questioning President Obama's citizenship.
I think I did a great job and a great service, not only for the country, but even for the president, in getting him to produce his birth certificate.
Secretary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton said Trump used the racist lie to launch his political career and had been sued by the Justice Department for housing discrimination.
So he has a long record
of engaging in racist behavior.
Trump accused her of treating then-Senator Obama with terrible disrespect during their 2008 debates.
When you try to act holier than thou, it really doesn't work.
As the debate turned to foreign policy, Clinton attacked Trump's temperament and his fitness to be commander-in-chief.
His cavalier attitude about nuclear weapons is so deeply troubling.
Trump's argument seemed to come down to this.
She's got experience, that I agree, but it's bad experience.
After the debate, Trump told reporters it was a great experience. The two meet again in St. Louis in less than 2 weeks.
The candidates on several occasions last night tried to set the record straight.
That is a mainstream media nonsense put out by her.
That is not the facts.
Well, CBS's Juliana Goldman separates fact from fiction.
No wonder you've been fighting ISIS your entire adult life.
Al-Qaeda in Iraq is the group that eventually became ISIS. It was formed in 2004 after Hillary Clinton had been a senator for 3 years.
Now you want to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Clinton downplayed her past support for the trade deal when she was Secretary of State.
That is just not accurate. I was against it once it was finally negotiated and the terms were laid out. I wrote about that in...
You called it the gold standard. You called it the gold standard of trade deals.
The New York Times backed up Trump's claims and says Clinton spoke out more than 40 times in favor of the TPP. Clinton also raised the issue of how Trump treats the women who work for him.
This is a man who has said pregnancy is an inconvenience to employers.
Trump denied the charge. But according to a 2004 interview, on the question of maternal leave, he said, quote, "Whether people want to say that or not, the fact is it is an inconvenience for a person that is running a business."
CBS News political director and Face the Nation host John Dickerson is with us now. John, was there a clear debate winner last night?
I don't know. I think Hillary Clinton did better in terms of what she needed to do. I'm not. It's a question of whether she won or Donald Trump lost. I think Donald Trump needed to expand his electorate beyond the ones who love him so much, who would have seen what they wanted to see in that debate. But in terms of reaching out to the portions of the Republican Party he's had trouble with, I'm not sure he helped himself. Hillary Clinton, I think, helped build enthusiasm in her campaign. And so she did more of what she needed to than he did.
Did we learn anything new from the key issues that were out there, namely jobs and taxes?
Not really. It was quite a good period for Donald Trump in the jobs and taxes area, not because the specifics were so winning, but because his larger argument about change and the way they've been doing things in Washington and his ability as a businessman to negotiate better deals for America. He seemed in command on those issues, and for the country that needs change, that was his strongest period of the debate.
Political director John Dickerson, thanks. A former director says more than a third of calls to a VA suicide hotline for vets are not being answered by frontline staffers, and some handle fewer than 5 calls a day and leave before their shifts end. Military researcher David Rudd.
It's outrageous for these calls not to be answered. You get people in the most vulnerable possible state. The calls aren't answered by trained crisis workers.
It's a waiting game now in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where the Cedar River is expected to crest well above flood stage this morning. Mayor Ron Corbett says 250,000 sandbags are in place, and residents near the river have gone to higher ground.
We've done everything that we could try to do humanly possible for this event.
Now to Miami. Players on both the Marlins and New York Mets hugged and cried, mourning Miami star pitcher Jose Fernandez, who died over the weekend in a boating accident. CBS's Peter King.
With his cap and his number 16 painted on the pitcher's mound, Jose Fernandez's teammates all wore jerseys with his name and number, as did many fans. 8 teammates stood around the pitcher's mound, no pitcher, baseball's version of the missing man formation, during a pregame tribute.
As he rounded the bases after hitting a first-inning home run, tears ran down the cheeks of Marlins second baseman Dee Gordon. He says he's never hit a ball that far, even in batting practice, and it was the best moment of his life. Miami won the game 7-3. Bruce Springsteen has used songs to tell his story and others for decades. Now, the soundtrack of his life is on the pages of a new book.
I was raised out of steelhead. The Boss's book tells of a childhood spent in near poverty, made painful by a paranoid schizophrenic father, jealous of the love lavished on Bruce by a doting mother. Not too long ago, Springsteen battled crippling depression. He tells CBS's Anthony Mason for Sunday Morning.
I got to where I didn't want to get out of bed, and you're not behaving very well at home, and you're tough on everybody.
But he says therapy and antidepressants got him through it. He begins a book tour today in his hometown of Freehold, New Jersey. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
The book, called Born to Run, is published by Simon & Schuster, which is owned by CBS. And that's the World News Roundup for Tuesday. I'm Steve Kathan, CBS News.
Good morning. Welcome back to this edition of the Show Me Almanac for Tuesday, September 27th, 2016. I'm still your armchair news reporter and presenter, Joe Hafner, with you. And take a look at the latest in local and regional news of interest in northern and central Missouri for today. A Marshall woman is still behind bars following the death of her 8-month-old boy. 26-year-old Lara Lynn Browder was arrested Friday and has been charged in Saline County Court with abuse of a child resulting in the child's death. Ms. Browder is being held on a $500,000 bond. The unresponsive baby was taken to Fitzgibbon Hospital a week ago Sunday, where he was pronounced dead. Preliminary autopsy results indicate the boy died from blunt force trauma to the head while in the care of his mother. The new Randolph County Administration Building on Route JJ in Huntsville is approaching full operational status. However, some offices will wait before leaving their current locations, including the County Commission. Presiding Commissioner John Truesdale says that is because state law requires the Commission and County Clerk to be under the same roof. The Commission will remain at the current courthouse location in Huntsville at least until November.
Will Ellis and the county clerk's office are responsible for all of the elections that are here in the county. And so when we have to go through our November election in order to safeguard and ensure that that election process is held at the very highest of standards and credibility. And that's why Will has decided to sit back and to wait until after the elections.
Several offices are slated to move to the Justice Center next door. Eastern Commissioner Wayne Wilcox says work on those offices could begin sometime within the next week.
There are some renovations that will need to be completed to the current Justice Center. That renovation will commence, which will be the time that we'll move the judges as well as the circuit clerk's office.
The Randolph County Prosecuting Attorney will also move to the Justice Center in Huntsville when renovations are complete, becoming the last office to move from the Moberly Courthouse. Knox County Public School students will be required to learn what it means to be a U.S. citizen. Last week, the Knox County School Board approved policies that were generated from the recent Missouri legislative session. Superintendent Andy Turgeon says students will be tested for constitutional knowledge and American civics.
Even though that doesn't go into effect until next year, we went ahead and approved that policy where every student's going to have to take a civics test. Basically, it's 100 questions, same questions that you get from, someone that wants to become a U.S. citizen. And that's a graduation requirement starting next year.
Turgeon says they also expanded their policy on bullying.
Well, we had a policy before. This one is a revised policy that gives more definition, adds terminology to what constitutes bullying, includes cyberbullying as well, and it has a form that can be used to investigate bullying.
In addition, the Knox County School Board voted to set aside time every day for reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. A Shelbina man sustained moderate injuries in a crash in Monroe County Sunday afternoon. The Highway Patrol says that around 1 o'clock, 44-year-old Owen Sparks of Shelbina was pulling into a driveway on County Road 239, about 3 miles south of Shelbina, when the steering wheel on his vehicle broke off as he attempted to make the turn. This caused the vehicle to roll over on its side. Sparks was taken to a Hannibal hospital for treatment of his injuries. And the man convicted of murdering 2 Randolph County deputies in June of 2000 during an attempted jailbreak is scheduled to have an appeal heard tomorrow before the Missouri Supreme Court. Attorneys for Mike Tysius are asking the court to vacate his death sentence and order a new penalty phase, claiming insufficient counsel during the trial and Tysius' mental age as reason. Tysius was convicted 15 years ago on first-degree murder charges in the shooting deaths of deputies Jason Acton and Leon Egley Jr. at the Huntsville jail while helping an inmate escape. The original jury recommended the death penalty, but a new penalty phase was ordered in 2004. The second jury also recommended the death penalty, which Tysius immediately appealed. The Supreme Court will consider the appeal and 2 other cases tomorrow morning starting at 9:30. You're listening to the Show Me Almanac for Tuesday, September 27th, 2016. Sunny skies in the forecast for today and mild autumn weather in store for the area for the next 5 to 6 days. Complete details on the forecast coming up in just a few minutes, as well as across our wide Missouri, plus Missouri Net News on the way in just a moment. In the meantime, it's time for the Composer's Date Book, as well as the Writer's Almanac, and right now, Today in History.
September 27th, 1964. The Warren Commission wraps up its investigation into the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Its report concludes Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in killing Kennedy and wounding Texas Governor John Conley the previous year. But the findings fail to convince many Americans. Doubts and conspiracy theories about the tragic events in Dallas persist to this day. 1996. Rise of the Taliban as the hardline religious militia captures Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. The Taliban installs a repressive Islamic regime, opening the country's doors to Osama bin Laden. In 2001, after the September 11th attacks, U.S.-led forces oust the Taliban, which lives on as an insurgency. 1825. In Britain, engineer George Stephenson drives the first locomotive to haul a passenger train. And 1954. Birth of a late-night legend as The Tonight Show debuts on NBC. Steve Allen is the first host, followed over the years by Jack Parr, Johnny Carson, and Jay Leno.
Decide in about a week what you think about it. It's not as spectacular. It's going to be kind of a monotonous, I think.
Today in History, September 27th. Ed Donahue, The Associated Press.
This Marketplace podcast is supported by Deloitte's Emerging Growth Company team, using audits to provide company leaders and investors with outside-in perspective and insight to consider. Deloitte.com/US/EGC.
And by Magic Jack, a digital phone service that's great for small business with unbeatable reliability at an incredible price. Powerful features like Auto Attendant project a professional image for your business. There's no nickel and diming with extra fees, no fluctuating bills. Plans start at $14.99 a month per line with a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. Get 2 months of free service at magicjackforbusiness.com/tech. Be one of the first 100 and get a free phone.
It's Marketplace Tech for Tuesday the 27th. I'm Ben Johnson in New York. Anyone waking up today and going on the internet will probably see something about last night's presidential debate. Doubly a good bet if you're on Facebook, where political advertising is growing. The New York Times has built a new tool called the New York Times Political Ad Tracker. You install a bit of browser software that puts a button on advertisements on Facebook. You click it to send data about you and the ad you see to the Times. Jeremy Merrill is a programmer and journalist at the New York Times. Jeremy, you've noticed the campaigns are trying different kinds of ad ideas here?
It may well be that the candidates, just like any other advertiser, whether it's a clothing brand or anything else, are trying 2 different kinds of ads to see which one of the 2 is more effective. Even little things. When you're asking someone in Ohio to register to vote, is it better to have an image of an American flag or the outline of the state of Ohio? Maybe the text is the same, but the image just varies just a little bit to see which one triggers the right psychological response to get people to do the thing you want them to do.
Besides research, who are these ads targeting?
I think these ads, they're not the nitty-gritty of policy. By and large, they seem to be targeted at people who are already supporters of the candidate.
Interesting. So this is like a lot of these ads are kind of reinforcement.
Right. One of the things that really surprised me is that despite the campaigns having access to this really powerful targeting technology, on the one hand, they are using it.
Right.
On the other hand, they're also running ads that aren't targeted.
So why do you think that is? Why is that happening?
It could be a recognition that just because you don't fit these statistical profiles of a Hillary Clinton supporter, you may still be a supporter who is a white male without a college degree in a Rust Belt state. And if they can figure out how to reach you and then get you into their targeting system, you're a lot more valuable as a vote or a donor. They still want to try and find you.
Jeremy Merrill, he is a programmer and journalist with the New York Times. He created the Times' political ad tracker tool. Jeremy, thank you very much for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Find that tool at nytimes.com/adtrack. In recent days, we've heard that Twitter might be for sale and that everyone from software company Salesforce to Microsoft is interested. Well, Bloomberg is reporting that we should add to that list the company that makes this.
Let it go,
and this.
This is SportsCenter.
Disney. Twitter's been struggling to grow its user base, though recent live streaming deals have some people optimistic. Twitter stock went up over 3% yesterday during regular trading. Some analysts put a potential sale, whoever buys, at around $20 to $30 billion. If you listen to Marketplace, you have probably heard us talk about the Consumer Price Index. It is a calculation of what people are spending every month in the economy. Well, there's a new digital price index put together by software maker Adobe. Adobe powers a lot of online transactions in the background of purchases all over the world. How many? Well, how does 51 trillion a year sound? Tamara Gaffney is principal analyst and director at Adobe, and she has been culling through all of that data. Hi, Tamara. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
So what have you found?
What we're seeing online is much more shopping going on than ever before.
Okay.
And it tells us quite a bit about what's happening in the marketplace. In fact, in looking at the United Kingdom data by itself, what we saw is that their deflation in computers is at 13.4%, whereas the United States is deflating at 7.7%. And both of those are showing more deflation for the computers category, for example, than what the Consumer Price Index, which is what the government report puts out.
So you're not saying that things are getting cheaper than we think they are necessarily. You're saying more that we could get a more accurate picture of what people are paying for certain goods.
Yes, that's right. The other thing that we looked at in the UK recently, because we've been hearing a lot about Brexit and we wanted to understand, is there anything going on in our data set that looks like it could lean one way or another? What we saw is demand. We'll go back to computers for a second. Demand for computers was up 33% in May. Then it went to 28%. Then it went to 16%. And in August, it went negative 10%.
Whoa.
So the demand is falling very quickly for a durable good like computers in the UK. And we did not see that happen in the United States.
What does it say about Brexit?
Brexit may be impacting consumers' long-term spending choices. It's a little bit counter to what we're hearing about other things going on in the economy from the UK. But this is the kind of stuff that we can tell right away. How is the economy reacting?
Tamara, has this changed your shopping habits at all?
It has. I can actually see pricing data along the whole year, and I have come to realize, despite the fact that I hate Black Friday with a passion, it is truly the best time to buy things when you look at it from the low prices standpoint.
Tamara Gaffney is principal analyst and director at Adobe. Tamara, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ben.
And I'm going to leave you in the hands of senior tech correspondent Molly Wood for a lot of the next few weeks while I work on the second season of our podcast Codebreaker. My adventures on Twitter. I'm at the Brock Johnson. Listen to our first season at codebreaker.codes. I'm Ben Johnson, and that's Marketplace Tech. This is APM.
And here is the Writer's Almanac for Tuesday, September 27th, 2016. It was on this date, 1825, the first steam-powered passenger railway began service in England. Train went from Shildon to Stockton, preceded by a man on horseback carrying a banner that read Periculum Privatum Utilitas Publica, the private danger is the public good. About 600 people aboard, most of them riding in open coal cars, the dignitaries in a passenger coach. The inventor of the steam engine, George Stephenson, rode on the footplate. A brass band boarded the train at Yarm to complete the journey. It's the birthday of Jack Kerouac's girlfriend, Joyce Johnson, born New York City, 1935. She wrote a book about it, Minor Characters, A Young Woman's Coming of Age in the Beat Orbit of Jack Kerouac. She wrote, artists are nourished more by each other than by fame or by the public. To give one's work to the world is an experience of peculiar emptiness. The work goes away from the artist into a void, like a message stuck into a bottle and flung into the sea. It's the birthday of the Scottish novelist Irvine Welsh, born Edinburgh, 1957, best known for his novel Trainspotting, about a group of heroin addicts in Edinburgh. He was a high school dropout, TV repairman, moved to London, be part of the punk rock scene, got addicted to heroin, then he quit drugs, cold turkey. He fell off the top deck of a London bus, got a nice cash settlement, used it to buy up property, fix it up and sell it at a profit, moved back to Edinburgh, got his MBA, started writing about his teenage years. He got an agent, and out came Trainspotting, a violent, strange, crude book written in a combination of standard English and Scots dialect. It was nominated for the Booker Prize, but 2 judges objected to the violence, and it was withdrawn from the list. He was asked why his books are so violent. Irvine Welsh said, well, everyone that writes has their own area of inquiry, and mine has always been kind of, why is it that when life can be so hard and difficult, we compound it by self-sabotage, doing terrible things? That's always been my main area of inquiry, and it does lead you to dark places. Here's a poem for today by Carrie Shippers, Dispatch. This is not an emergency, I say, when Mom picks up. She answers, hold on, we're getting a page, 2 electronic tones, the call numbers that follow. As a teenager, I listened to the police scanner in our kitchen, taught myself the radio codes that told me where she was, what she was putting right. Today, I wait without hearing anything I understand. She's used to waiting for calls to come in, units to go out, her shift to end. She says she doesn't miss the ambulance hefting cots and equipment the urgent drives. As a dispatcher, she gets to stay inside, wear her own clothes, go home unbloodied. On the night shift, she reads cookbooks and crime novels next to her keyboard, wanting and not wanting something to happen. Mornings at my desk, I imagine her voice sending sirens exactly where they're needed. Dispatch, poem by Carrie Shippers from Family Resemblances, published by University of New Mexico Press and used by permission here on the Writer's Almanac, supported by Lumosity with a 10-minute fit test to calculate baseline scores and training programs with 50 challenging brain games. Learn more at lumosity.com. And by TIAA, whether it's investing, advice, banking, or retirement, TIAA is committed to helping those who do good do well. Learn more at TIAA.org. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.
This is the Composer's Datebook for September 27th. I'm John Zach. On this date in 1828, Franz Schubert attended a party. It was at the Vienna home of one of his admirers, and he sat down and played from a new piano sonata in B-flat, which he had completed just the day before. In the same month, Schubert composed one of his greatest chamber pieces, the String Quintet in C major, a work that is tragic in tone and for some seems to prefigure Schubert's imminent demise, for in less than 2 months, Schubert would be dead, an apparent victim of tertiary syphilis. Syphilis was the most dreaded sexually transmitted disease of Schubert's day. Now in our time, antibiotics can treat this once fatal disease, but its place has been taken by the AIDS epidemic, which has shortened the lives of many contemporary artists. One of these was American composer Kevin Oldham, born in 1960 in Kansas City. His major work is a piano concerto which was premiered to critical acclaim and a standing ovation by the Kansas City Symphony, conducted by Bill McLaughlin in 1993. At that time, Oldham was seriously ill in a New York hospital, and he weighed only 135 pounds. Nevertheless, he checked himself out, flew to his hometown to solo in his concerto, then returned to the hospital the following day and died 6 weeks later at the age of 32. When Schubert died, he was only 31. Composer's Datebook is produced by APM, American Public Media, in conjunction with the American Composers Forum, reminding you that all music was once new.
Missouri Net News is presented by the Children's Trust Fund. Get your license to care. Show your green hands by purchasing a CTF license plate for your car, truck, or motorcycle.
Missouri Net News, I'm Jason Taylor. Saying it's far too early for her to begin making any recommendations. University of Missouri Review Commissioner member Renee Holsoff is still hopeful they can receive a deadline extension. Holsoff tells Missouri Net she has a lot of questions.
What does our disability community look like? What does our ethnicity look like? What does our gender population look like? Some of that I can get my hands on. Some of it I cannot.
University of Missouri Review Commission has been asked to submit a report to the General Assembly by December 31st. The commission's reviewing numerous areas, including the UM system's rules, regulations, campus structure, research activities, and diversity programs. The commission meets tomorrow morning at 10 at Missouri S&T in Rolla. A man known for his wealth says taxing the wealthy is hurting every tax bracket. Conservative donor Rex Singfield says some of those tax increases have decreased investment in small business.
That stuff is not liquid. If it doesn't work out, you're stuck. You just bear the total loss. And so whatever is the desired expected return, the fact is the 13.4 percentage points came off of it with the institution of all these taxes.
Singfield blames President Obama for what he calls a slow economic recovery. Missouri State quarterback Breck Ruddick was ticketed yesterday by Springfield Animal Control for animal cruelty and allowing a dog to run at large. The agency's report states that an officer was dispatched last Tuesday about a complaint that Ruddick, who was babysitting the dog of a friend, hit and broke its jaw, cracking at least 6 teeth, which required surgery the next day. The report alleges Ruddick admitted to hitting the 42-year-old Australian Shepherd, both in front of a witness and in a text message, and his parents agreed to pay the bills for the dog's care. Springfield Animal Control says further charges could be filed. A new agreement to use sheltered workshops for janitorial services at state rest areas goes into effect Saturday. The arrangement through the State Department of Transportation will cost slightly more than $19 million over 3 years. Republican State Senator Dan Hegeman, he's a strong supporter of sheltered workshops, which employ disabled people.
It's a great place for these people to go and congregate and join together in doing something productive for their communities. It also provides great meaning to the clients as they work toward a satisfying goal of producing a product.
Missouri has 89 nonprofit sheltered workshops statewide, which employ 7,500 people. Opponents say the workers are underpaid and are better served when employed in traditional workplaces. A Columbia swim organization must take action after it's accused of dumping draining pool water into a tributary to a creek, killing more than 200 fish. The Department of Natural Resources conducted an investigation into West Broadway Swim Club after a resident complained. Jason Taylor, Missouri Net.
Missouri Net Sports, I'm Bill Pollock. The Cardinals lost 15-2. They're now a full game behind San Francisco with 6 to play as they try to get into the wild card. They gave up 22 hits to the Reds, including 4 homers. Mike Matheny pulled Jaime Garcia after 1 inning when he gave up 2 of those homers.
If it doesn't look right, we got to try and make a move, and it didn't look right. He gives up base hit, couple stolen bases, and then 2 back-to-back homers, another hard hit ball, and got our back against the wall already. We got arms down there that can throw, so we're going to give them a shot.
Giants were off. The Mets lost to the Marlins, an emotional game for both teams. Miami's first since the death of Jose Fernandez. I asked the first question at Barry Odom's press conference yesterday. What challenge does he face in planning for LSU with an interim coach and a new offensive coordinator after Les Miles was fired?
Dissect everything that they've done through 4 games and prepare for that. You're always making in-game adjustments. And I think that's part of being a teacher and a coach. It's about the way that we're going to prepare on what we think the game plan will give us a chance to be successful.
The Tigers in Baton Rouge Saturday at 6:30. An update on Missouri State quarterback Brent Ruddick. He was ticketed by Springfield Animal Control for animal cruelty and allowing a dog to run at large. The incident report states that Ruddick was dog sitting for a friend when he broke the dog's jaw and cracked 6 teeth, requiring surgery the next day. His parents are paying for the vet bills. His lawyer says he's receiving death threats, and Missouri State's Office of Student Conduct is investigating. No word yet on if Ruddick remains suspended from the football team. Mizzou basketball was set to play in the Puerto Rico tip-off, but the tournament is being moved by ESPN to Orlando after some of the teams expressed concerns over the Zika virus. Kim Anderson released a statement saying the safety of the student athletes, staff, and fans is the most important factor. The tournament starts November 17th. Bill Pollock, Missouri Net Sports.
It's not about you. It's about me. I just don't do drugs. I want to make my family proud. They're counting on me to do the right thing. And drugs and alcohol aren't getting in my way. I'm under my own influence. Be under yours. Learn more at myown.influence.org.
We've been friends forever. Yeah, maybe too long. We drive our parents crazy. We're here for each other when things get rough and when things are really awesome. But drugs, no thanks. No thanks. That's not us. We're under our own influence. Be under yours. Learn more at myown.influence.org.
Electricity makes our everyday lives more convenient. It can also be deadly if not used properly. Dozens of farm workers are killed each year when farm machinery comes into contact with power lines. Your local electric cooperative urges you to watch for overhead power lines when moving equipment like portable augers and combines. Make sure everyone knows to keep farm equipment at least 10 feet away from power lines. Working to keep you safe.
Discover the value of your co-op membership. Visit membersfirst.coop today.
Across our wide Missouri with Bob Priddy. Listen to show archives, hear about this day in Missouri history, and learn more about the Show Me State by visiting MissouriNet.com today.
Skirmishing broke out that afternoon near Ironton, with Union forces rallying to push back the ragtag Confederate forces of Major General James Fagan. That night, the Union forces withdrew into town, and late that night, Major James Wilson and Captain William Campbell went out to learn the enemy's strength. They found Sterling Price's entire army was camped in the Arcadia Valley of Missouri, readying an all-out attack on their small unit and fort. The attack came the next day. It was a great tragedy for the Confederacy, and we'll tell the story in a minute.
At AT&T, we believe that access to affordable home internet brings you incredible opportunities. You
you can enjoy the power to explore a digital world of possibilities and connect with family, friends, and the things that matter most. That's why there's access from AT&T. If a member of your household is a SNAP participant, you may qualify for home internet at a discounted rate of $10 a month. No commitment, no deposit, no installation fee. Plus, get an in-home Wi-Fi gateway at no extra cost. Call 1-855-220-5211 or visit att.com/aware to learn more.
SNAP refers to the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Pricing excludes tax. Service will include a monthly data allowance depending on the type and speed of service you receive. If you exceed your monthly data plan allowance, you will be automatically charged $10 for each 50 gigabytes of data usage in excess of your data plan, even if less than 50 gigabytes is used. For details about data allowances, go to att.com/internet-usage. Wi-Fi enabled device required. Other restrictions apply.
The situation began to develop when General William Rosecrans, stationed in St. Louis, heard that Price was marching into Missouri again. The Confederates lost the surprise element almost immediately. Rosecrans fortified St. Louis, and then he sent General Thomas Ewing of Order No. 11 fame to south-central Missouri to see what Price was up to find out where Price had advanced, ordered the state militia to concentrate at Rolla and Jefferson City, doing exactly what Price wanted him to do. He clumped his men in small numbers that could be wiped out piecemeal. Joe Shelby thought St. Louis still could be taken in a day, but Price thought otherwise and decided to turn his 1,500-man garrison at Pilot Knob. Ewing then had taken command there at Fort Davidson, and Fletcher had taken command of the infantry at Pilot Knob. They had 886 men ready to fight, but they didn't know that Price had 10 to 12,000. By noon that fateful day, the Confederates had the fort surrounded. A Confederate artillery engineer felt that 10 cannons on the mountain nearby could destroy the fort in 15 minutes. But Price listened instead to Lieutenant Colonel Auckland McLean, a personal enemy of Ewing's, who demanded a massive frontal assault. For an hour, the valley was quiet. In the underbrush, the Confederates formed up. In the fort, Ewing ordered the cannons lowered to where they were shooting level so they could spray the approaching land with canister. 2 o'clock. 4 Confederate cannons opened fire, and Price's fearful-looking army moved into view from the south and west in columns 3 ranks deep, walking toward the fort. Walking. When the firing began, there were massive explosions within the Confederate ranks, but still they came. At 600 yards, they broke into a quick step. The fire from the fort was fast and deadly, but still the Confederates came, and when they were 200 yards away, they fired their first volley and broke into a running charge. Smoke billowed across the field. Only running legs could be seen. 70 yards, still they were coming. 60 yards, they were taking monstrous casualties. 50 yards, 40. 30. Finally, the line began to waver. It fell back. They regrouped and came on again, some reaching a 7-feet-deep moat surrounding the fort, but they didn't have the momentum to scale the sloping walls, and Union riflemen leaned over the walls and shot into the rebels like fish in a barrel. Small artillery shells were dropped into the gulf to go off like hand grenades. It was too much. Price's army finally turned and began to run, and the Union riflemen took an even heavier toll, and only now can they see the damage that has been done. During the charge, the ranks kept closing, but in the retreat there was no order, and as Brownlee writes, for 500 yards on the 3 faces of the earthworks, the ground was black in dead and wounded men. It is 2:20 p.m. The battle has lasted 20 minutes, and 1,000 officers and men are dead. That night, the Union forces sneaked out of the fort and blew up the magazine, knowing Price would start lobbing artillery shells in the next morning. Sterling Price's army never recovered the spirit, the advantage, and the hope they had before that battle, where they lost 1,000 men in 20 minutes at Pilot Knob on this date, September 27th in 1864.
That was Across Our Wide Missouri with Bob Pretty. To listen to show archives, hear about this day in Missouri history, and learn more about the Show Me State, visit MissouriNet.com.
You're in tune to the Show Me Almanac for Tuesday, September 27th, 2016. Again, sunny skies and weather picture for the rest of the day, and temperatures warming up into the lower 70s. Complete details on the weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes. The construction on the expansion of the Kraft Heinz food plant in Kirksville continues to move forward, this time with the help of a massive helicopter. If you're wondering why you were able to hear a helicopter hum in the northern part of town Sunday morning, this is the reason why. A huge specialized chopper called a sky crane was being used to lift a very large, heavy HVAC unit, several of them, as a matter of fact, into place, and placed them on the roof of the Adair County Foods plant. The impressive sight prompted many to pull off alongside the both sides of Industrial Road as well as Highway 6 West to see the helicopter pilot at work. If you didn't get a chance to see the sky crane in action last Sunday morning, crews are expected to be working once again next Sunday morning, October 2nd. Many in Kirksville say they're excited to see the Kraft-Heinz project continuing to move forward. Meanwhile, keeping Missouri competitive in the agriculture industry were topics of conversation between local university students and a Missouri state official. Missouri Director of Agriculture Richard Fordyce spent much of yesterday afternoon on the campus of Truman State University in Kirksville. There he met with faculty, students, and community members working in the agricultural field. At the university farm, Mr. Fordyce was able to hear firsthand from a group of students about different agricultural products they've been working on through the course of their studies. Some of those projects include research on beef, equine, and corn. Fordyce went on to say that the students have a bright future in agriculture and that more people need to invest in and work with the younger generation. In addition to making a stop at the university farm, Fordyce also had a chance to tour Truman's campus in its entirety. He said he had a great time and was very impressed with all that the university has to offer. A group that entertained at Super Bowl 33 will wrap up the Moberly Area Chamber of Commerce banquet and sesquicentennial celebration with a concert tonight at 8 o'clock at the Moberly Area Community College Activities Center in Moberly. Brian Skaggs with the Moberly 150 Committee says, the time is now to get your tickets for Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Who's been around for 26 years, multi-Grammy Award-winning band, but they are actually on a world tour right now, so when they come to us, they're actually going to be coming from Europe. A lot of people say, we haven't really heard much about them, but you definitely want to come to this show because we brought them in because they appeal to every age, every demographic. They are a very high-energetic band.
Skaggs says you can get your tickets for as low as $1.50 in honor of the sesquicentennial event. Mid-Missouri native and Nashville singer Carissa Beal will perform before the awards program at about 6:45. Again, you can get your entertainment tickets at the Moberly Area Chamber of Commerce office in Moberly. 5 of the 8 surrounding states to Missouri have entered a lawsuit against the Federal Labor Department. The litigation stems from an order issued by President Obama to double the salary level threshold in which executive and administrative employees are eligible for overtime wages. Missouri Attorney General Chris Koster says the state's considering its options.
The matter is in our office. We simply haven't made a decision on it yet.
Under the new rule, beginning December 1st, all employees earning under $47,500 will be eligible for overtime pay. The lawsuit claims the executive branch is overstepping its authority in making the change. Meanwhile, the issue of right to work continues to play a major role in Missouri's governor's race. The Missouri Net's Jason Taylor has the story.
Republican Eric Greitens and Democrat Chris Koster couldn't be farther apart on the issue. Koster thinks right-to-work laws, which diminish the power of unions, will harm workers by lowering their wages.
I've been against right to work for 22 years. I was a Republican leader and was against right to work, stood up on the floor as a Republican against right to work, and I'm still against right to work.
Greitens is solidly behind such legislation. In a statement issued yesterday, a campaign spokesperson said right to work gives workers freedom and makes Missouri more competitive. And Republican State Senator Bob Onder, who's endorsed Greitens, claims economic numbers favor Missouri becoming a right-to-work state.
In the decade that ended in 2013, job growth has been 8.6% in freedom-to-work states and only 3.7% in states that do not have right to work.
Big money from groups representing both sides of the right to work issue has been streaming into the Missouri governor's race. Jason Taylor, Missouri Net.
Meanwhile, one of the goals of the Randolph County Health Assessment is to identify services that health agencies need to do to increase and improve the county's overall well-being. Moberly Regional Medical Center Chief Executive Officer John Dawes says the assessment helps determine which services residents are currently traveling to receive.
If we can provide those services here in Moberly and avoid having to send patients or have the community members drive to Columbia or anywhere else, as far as that matters, that I think that would be important, and we're committed to doing that.
Dawes says MRMC utilizes assessments conducted around the area to better tailor its services.
On Thursday,
we have access to additional health needs assessments, let's say in Boone County, because there may be some connection between Moberly or Randolph County residents. And so we have, as part of our data sourcing, we do look at a much broader area than just Randolph County.
The health assessment is administered every 3 years by the Randolph County Health Department as part of the Missouri Department of Health's accreditation process. The survey is available on the Health Department's website through October 10th, while a town hall meeting is set for a week after that on the 18th at the Randolph Area YMCA in Moberly. Well, contrary to popular belief, brown recluse spiders while common in this area, their bites are poisonous. They don't generally like to interact with humans. That is true. The director of the emergency department at Moberly Regional Medical Center, Patsy Llewellyn, says the spider is also not aggressive.
And it only bites when it's threatened. And the fangs of the spider are pretty short, so they can't really bite through clothing. And so they're probably less frequent than you would think. Also, at nighttime is when you may encounter the spider, since they're nocturnal and they're hunting for prey at night.
Llewellyn mentioned an incident in a home here in the Midwest that serves as a bit of proof that the brown recluse will shy away from people.
In Kansas, in 2001, there were more than 2,000 brown recluse spiders that were removed from a heavily infested home. And there were several people that lived in that home and over a period of years, and they never once had a bite.
Llewellyn also stated that the brown recluse isn't often found outdoors, but when outdoors, it prefers dark, warm places, such as rotting wood. Finally, in the news for today, it's a week full of activities for the Macon High School as homecoming started this week. Principal Matt Haley says the theme this year is The Wizard of Oz, and each day is dedicated to fun activities. Yesterday was Oz the Great and Powerful Day. Today is Twister Tuesday, and tomorrow is Which Day?
On Thursday, it's lions and tigers, so they're going to dress like an animal. And then, of course, on Friday is Spirit Day, where the theme is There's a Storm Coming, and they're going to wear their orange and black.
Thursday night is also set aside for the annual pep rally, homecoming queen coronation, and, weather permits, the annual bonfire. Haley says the week will end with the homecoming football game on Friday.
The Brookfield Bulldogs are coming to town, so we'll have a Clarence Cannon Conference rivalry and also a big game. Coming to Hugh Dunn Field at 7 o'clock on September the 30th.
Macon High School Principal Matt Haley. And speaking of the weather forecast, looks like we'll have sunny skies throughout the day, temperatures warming up into the lower 70s. Light westerly winds shifting to the west and northwest at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Clear skies for tonight, lows around 46 degrees, westerly winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Sunny and cooler tomorrow with highs in the mid-60s, lows in the mid-40s, north winds at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. For Thursday, sunny skies, highs in the upper 60s, lows in the upper 40s. Friday, sunny skies, highs near 70, lows around 50. For Saturday and Sunday, sunny skies throughout the day, a few clouds at night, highs in the low 70s, lows in the low to mid-50s. And then for Monday, mostly sunny skies with highs warming up into the mid-70s. That's been the latest in news and weather information of interest in northern and central Missouri on this edition of the Show Me Almanac for Tuesday, September 27th, 2016. Again, I'm your armchair news reporter and presenter, Joe Hafner, saying my time is up. Thank you for yours.